I am recording on my laptop, if you're wondering. So, in honor of the Christmas spirit, I had to comment on one of my favorite things, which is Pretty Little Liars. And they had a Christmas special, which I had to comment on. I just had to do it. So, first of all, I have notes for this. That's how much I wanted to say. So, the first thing is the episode opens with this beautiful town square scene with like deers on the electrical wire with broken necks, which is just so magical. And you see the Pretty Little Liars walking down the street, and the first question I have is apparently Spencer is out of jail. I don't know when that happened between the last episode and this episode, but apparently Spencer got out of jail. The next thing that I had to comment on was Hannah's court gesture comment, which was pretty lame. Like, and at the end of the joke, she kind of even laughed about it, so it was like, was that even a part of the show? And so as they're walking through the town, just, having a good time, they come up to Allie's charity ball, which is a flyer just like posted in the middle of town. So apparently anyone can come. I know it's a charity ball, but it's like, do you really want anyone from Rosewood, possibly A, coming to your ball? But of course, we all know A's going to be at the ball. The next thing that happens is there's some lawyer who comes to find Hannah in case of Mona's demise. And I'm like, okay, this lawyer just found Hannah, like, walking down the street. He didn't find her at her house, just randomly walking down the street, which was a little too perfect for me. And the next scene, it has a ghost Mona because, as we all know in the previous episode, Mona died. But she doesn't look like a ghost. She's like the most glam rock ghost I've ever seen. Even with like the craziness and the pale skin, she looks like a rock star. So I don't know who did that PLL. And this is the part when Allie's like having a flashback and she sees her as a kid and she opens the piano to find two Christmas gifts. And the only thing I can think is like, who hides Christmas gifts in the piano? Like, really? That doesn't even make sense. And when she tells her mom about it, she's like, oh, Daddy's gonna think it's so funny when I tell him. And her mom's like, don't tell Dad. And she says, why? And she looks at her and she's like, because Daddy will leave us if you tell. Okay. Do you really have to say that to a kid? So after that little crazy scene, it cuts to Spencer's room with Toby with like a camera looking out the window. And I'm just like, how did he get all the way up to Spencer's room if he's in a wheelchair? Like, really? How did that even happen? And throughout their entire long, boring conversation, you see Spencer like dressing up. You see her like fixing her shoe and buckling her dress or something. And then at the end, she reveals herself in this like cute little Santa costume. And she delivers the most, logical line ever, which is Merry ho ho. uh, Merry ho ho is a phrase apparently. I've never heard it before, but apparently people say it. Next is the church scene, which I don't even know if I'm the only one who like thinks about these things, but they have tables set up all in the church, and there's like kids there getting presents, I guess. And the only thing I can think is, did they move out all the pews in the church to put tables up? If so, where are the pews? I want to see the pews. And then you see Hannah, like at the front of the church handing out gifts in like a kind of suggestive elf outfit, which is weird. It's like, why isn't Santa handing out gifts? And why isn't Hannah more conservative around kids? And then Caleb comes out as another elf. I don't know why he wasn't Santa. Maybe Christians in this show don't believe in Santa. I'm not sure. And then we see a group of Rosewood girls, always in fives, never in like threes or fours or sixes, always in fives. And the one girl, of course, is like a little Allie mini me. And Hannah like notices that the girls are being mean, and she's like, "In Rosewood, bees get buried." And I'm like, did you just curse in church, first of all? And second of all, you're cursing the kids. Like, what is up with the verbal abuse of children in this episode? Why? The next scene is, I don't even know which of the Little Liars are in the scene specifically, but they're like all at the senior citizen area, like senior citizen thing, singing. And I'm just like, did these girls ever just do nothing? They're like the busiest teenagers I've ever seen in my life. And can I just say that Emily is like the most non-convincing lesbian ever? She is so she just seems so super girly, and to me she kind of just treats Paige like a BFF. The next scene is kind of my favorite scene, which is weird because like I love Pretty Little Liars the show and I read the books, so I kind of like the next scene with Allie and how she's like latching onto the two twins. So, you know, if you read the book, you know what I mean. And in the next scene, it's like Allie's party, and she enters because she's Queen Bean. Queen Bean. She's Queen Bee Allie, and she enters once again with four other girls. This whole five thing. I wonder if this will have some type of significance later on in the show. And then at the party, the girls plot to go through Allie's house because they have the home plans for Mona after she died. And in the next scene, Spencer and Hannah are actually in Allie's house. And I'm just like, okay, how did they get in her house? How did that just happen? They were just like at the party in her house. So while Spencer and Hannah are going through Allie's house, we cut back to the party where Allie is going through this really cool, like, wintry Wonderland maze where she meets Cece. And how is it that the bad guys are always alone? Like, they never get caught. There's no one in this little maze but Allie and Cece. Somehow. I don't know how. And when they reveal Cece, she has this crazy, like, I think it was supposed to be, like, magical Christmassy, but she has this crazy, like, silver mess on her face that literally looks like they just took like a spray gun and was like Christmas. And the next scene is this really intense thing where Hannah and Spencer get separated in Allie's house, and then A comes and he has a knife and he's trying to kill them. And for some reason, Hannah screams, A knocks her out, Spencer runs upstairs, and Hannah's like knocked out on the floor. Which I'm like, okay, if A hates them so much, how come he didn't just kill Hannah right there? Unless he wanted to hide the body himself, like apparently he likes to do, according to Spencer. And the end of that scene is the creepiest thing of the entire show, which is A, like, there's like a shelf of dolls, and A has this doll mask, and he's just like, and they're completely unaware. It was really creepy. I liked it though. And the last scene is all the Pretty Little Liars and their significant others in Spencer's house celebrating Christmas. And this show, it kind of objectifies men. Like, every single guy on the show has been shirtless. So after the liars have a little sappy moment, they cut to all the guys, like, on the stairs shirtless. Except for Paige. She's in, like, a wife beater, so I guess she's one of the guys. And like, the one thing about Pretty Little Liars that I like is that everyone there, except for maybe like Arya's little brother, are obviously not in high school. So this is like the only show with people my age who that's like not a reality show. So it's interesting for me to watch. And it was just kind of weird to see like a bunch of 17, 18-year olds all gathered together. Their parents are never around. Like, where are their parents? Their parents are always like out of town, on a trip, stuck because of weather. they're they're just always alone. That's probably why A always targets them because there's no one protecting them. And another weird part is it's just like a bunch of teenagers just casually celebrating Christmas with their like at least a 24-year-old teacher, which is super creepy. And at the end, they all toast, which I guess is not real alcohol, but because they're all obviously not high school age kids, it's like what type of what type of thing are you going for here? Because it's a little weird, little illegal, little weird. Another thing I noticed is that they've pretty much been at Spencer's house like all night. Everyone has had they like change their clothes. Like apparently Spencer keeps a spare change of clothes for everyone in her house. So they've had like 3 wardrobe changes, all thanks to Spencer. And then of course they all have a wonderful Christmas moment and they go outside and they have this horrible message from A and the story continues. So that was my review of How A Stole Christmas. That's the title of this episode. And just like I have to talk about the title of this episode, it was kind of cheesy. Like all throughout this episode, it was kind of horrible Christmas puns, but the title was just it was just bad. So yeah, that was my review. I actually love this show. I'm obsessed with it. I've seen every single episode. I've read almost all the books. I think I haven't read like 2 books. And that was my holiday video. I'm wearing my holiday ugly sweater. You can't see it. That's reindeer. That's reindeer. That's Rudolph. And that's Rudolph. I've named them all. So, thanks for watching.